is going on, everybody? Let's go. I hope you guys are excited. We're going to have a great show tonight. I am 110% back to normal. No worries about having a little bit of a crazy throat issue thing going on. We're good to go. We've got a lot to cover tonight. We're going to talk a little bit about the State of the Union. We're going to talk about the economic situation going on. We're going to talk a little bit about the Epstein files, and we're going to talk about some other random news. And we're going to watch a video at the end of this of Donald Trump speaking in Corpus Christi. So it's going to be quite an eventful evening. And as you're trickling in here, please do me a huge favor. Hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Let's aim for 20 likes tonight. We're going low. But I think we can do it tonight. Guys. So let's do that. Share it out. Share it with a friend. And let's just jump straight into it. We got a lot to cover tonight. A lot. I apologize for missing Wednesday. But that's just how it is. You might also notice I got myself a fresh cut, y'all. I am loving it. All right. Let's jump straight in the news. We got a lot to cover. A lot. Okay. So first things first, we have Troy Nehls. Okay. Our lovely Texas representative wearing a Trump tie. This man is extremely, he is old. And he's wearing another man's face on his tie. And by the way, as Trump was leaving, he begged Trump, literally begging him, just initial on my tie. And this is why we say MAGA is a cult. And it's funny because on here, it's saying definitely not a cult. We also see where Representative Jimmy Patronis says he was too starstruck by being in Trump's presence. Of course, this was last night, to watch the Democratic State of the Union response. Starstruck. The way they describe Donald Trump is baffling. It's quite frankly very baffling. You see, when we talk about cult-like behavior, I've always talked about there is what I call first term MAGA, and then there's second term MAGA. Second term MAGA tends to be the more cultish personality, right? It's the cult of personality. It's the grandiosity of Donald Trump that they portray him as, right? They portray him as the second coming, right? What's going on, Jennifer? So they have this weird thing. They wear the MAGA merch. They wear the Trump hat, the Trump shoes. They say that he is the greatest president that's ever been around. Now, you see, for representatives, this makes sense, right? Because they're trying to get that sweet endorsement of Donald Trump. They're trying to get that photo op with Donald Trump. But you see, I don't know why they do this, because time and time again, we find where those who are endorsed by Donald Trump tend to lose these elections, but it doesn't stop them from being cultish. And then we have here, this incident took place where we could see Ilhan Omar and Representative Rashida Tlaib yelling at Donald Trump. Now, you'll see this gets really funny here very quickly. You can see Representative Mike Lee, sucker for having contradictions, okay, saying, I've been to 16 of these State of the Unions. I've never seen Republicans behave like this during a Democratic State of the Union. Never. Yet the mainstream media says nothing. Here's the funny thing about this. Here's Mike Lee actually shouting during Biden's 2023 State of the Union. But that's not all. That's just Mike Lee, right? Here is Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene screaming at Joe Biden. And it's not just Mike Lee that was saying this. You could see this was in response to Sean Duffy saying Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar were heckling the president through the whole speech. It was incredibly distracting. You should respect him enough to listen to him. When does decorum come back? You see, MAGA has this lovely ideology of rules for thee, not for me, but it doesn't stop there. They were so bitter about Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar speaking up that it even got to J.D. Vance saying he was amazed at Trump's self-control because Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar were talking loudly the entire time. You see, they don't like when someone speaks up against their dear leader. You know, it is incredibly baffling. Hey guys, as you're coming in, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. If you haven't already, do me a huge solid. That'd be great. All right. So then we also have here where the House Republicans. So during the State of the Union, They tried to get this easy quip. I don't know if you've ever heard of this thing where it's a loaded question, right? It goes, when was the last time you beat your wife? Well, if you say no or yes or anything like that, it's a lose-lose situation. And so what Donald Trump ended up doing was, during the State of the Union, he said, I would like to ask if you guys would stand if you want to put Americans first before illegal aliens. It was along those lines. And they didn't stand up. And so House Republicans are running with this thing, and we got them. We got them. Problem is, most Americans don't give a crap about illegal immigration. Right now, it's primarily the economy. And as you can see here, they ran with this, saying the State of the Union made one thing clear: Democrats refuse to stand for America. Stopping fraud, nope. Supporting working families, nope. Ending the border invasion, nope. It's disgusting and anti-American. Except here's the thing: if the idea is that they refuse to stop fraud, why aren't they stopping the fraud that is happening within the White House itself? That's not all. You can see here Fox even went as far to go in and interview Al Green and say, what is your priority, U.S. citizens or illegal aliens? You see, the presupposition here is that it is either or, but it's not both. That's where the problem lies in this, is as if there is an only one or the other option, but there can be both, right? It can be both. And what he says is exactly how it should be responded to. He said, my priority is the American Constitution, which protects you, aliens, and people in this country. And Fox, of course, was trying to nail him down to a particular one or the other, either or scenario, and said, so not U.S. citizens. That's not what he said at all. He said, my priority is the American Constitution, which protects you, aliens, and people. Again, rebutting the idea that it is an either or situation. Mindy said, when are we going to prosecute the people who voted to let grown men go to the bathroom with little girls? Why do you all protect these? Mindy, if you're going to engage in such hyperbole and not actually engage within the merits, you can come back at another time when you feel so free to do so. I think it's disgusting that you come in with that idea that is, and again, the idea of what she's running on, what she was just talking about, y'all, is actually kind of gross, because here's the thing too. Okay. Or sorry, it's not a great political strategy, because again, most Americans don't give a rat's ass about that particular topic. What they do give a rat's ass about is they care about the economy. How can I do that? Republicans love this because they love othering people, right? So when they talk about that, it was othering at that time, especially 2019, it was othering the LGBTQ community. And then it shifted into the immigrant community, right? Then they started othering the immigrants, which was crazy to me, right? You see, MAGA thrives on cruelty. They'll sit there and they'll be quick to sit there and say, tone down the rhetoric, but they'll never tone down the rhetoric themselves. You can also see where Al Green, during the State of the Union, held up a pamphlet that said black people aren't apes. And what this was in reference to was the post that a lot of people have forgotten about already, even though it happened just a couple of weeks ago, where Donald Trump reposted a post that showed Obama's with their head on a monkey. Yes, that is what ended up happening. It was baffling. So Al Green put up there, black people aren't apes, and many of the Republicans tried tearing down this sign. And you can see here Representative Ilhan Omar saying, it isn't just a sad moment for our country when a member of Congress has to, remind the president that black people aren't apes. It is a sad time in our country. And it's more than just that rhetoric. It's several other pieces of rhetoric where he talks about the left and how they're, radical left lunatics and, evil and all those other things, right? But anyways, you can see here too that Troy Nehls tried ripping down Al Green's poster. And when he was asked about Tony Gonzalez, who, by the way, Tony Gonzalez is accused of messaging his staffer in a very explicit manner. I'll put it that in the most PG terms I can. Okay. And that is very PG. So much so the staffer had ended up taking her own life in Minecraft. Okay. It was pretty tragic. But instead of sitting there and saying, I condemn that, he said, aren't some things bigger than politics? This is what's disgusting in our political landscape right now. is the refusal to hold their own party accountable. They will they'll try to say that the left needs to be held accountable and play by this other set of standards that they themselves will not even play into either. Okay, it's pretty crazy. But that's not all. Stephen Miller ended up chiming in. He said, Democrats declare to the world their searing disdain for and profound disloyalty to the actual citizens of the United States. They were repeatedly entreated to stand over and over. They refused. It was a moment that chills to the bone and which will live for 1,000 years. Yo, what's going on, Spartacus? I don't know. Every time Stephen Miller gets up there and posts some kind of crazy post, it always sounds like somebody who's trying to really fish for attention. But in this case here, again, it's trying to divide. I'm not surprised if Stephen Miller was the one who wrote some of these speeches. They were repeatedly entreated to stand over and over. And again, it was a lose-lose situation. If the Democrats ended up standing during that moment when Donald Trump said, who do you stand for, Americans or illegal aliens? He would have had something backed up to it. This is why I tell people, they're like, oh, the Democrats should have stand. No, I don't think it really would have mattered, quite honestly, because there would have been a rebuttal to follow up with that. It was a loaded question. And again, nobody really watched the State of the Union. From my understanding, the State of the Union ended up having incredibly low ratings. Incredibly low ratings. I think the lowest ratings we've seen in a long time. But here's the crazy part about this is we had Fetterman go up there and try to be Mr. Peacekeeper, right? The one who sits there and tries to reach across the aisle with an olive branch, okay? Saying he was trying to take a victory lap and he fell asleep. Exactly, Spartacus. Fetterman sat there and stood up and was clapping and everything else. Listen, I get the Joe Manchin thing, but Fetterman puts Joe Manchin to shame. You can talk about rhinos. I think that every angle you look at with Fetterman, between legislation, between the way he interacts just with Republicans, he is objectively what we would call a dino, a Democratic in name only. Well, Fetterman is a Republican, so, well, yeah. I mean, well, I know, Wes, to you, is he Republican? He's a Democrat. I don't know where you're saying he's a Republican, but I think I know what you're trying to say. So anyways, and they use him, they tout him around, and they say, look, see, look at our lovely Fetterman, and they try to weasel him over there. You can see a poll found nearly half of the people who watched Trump's speech said the president focused too little on the economy and the cost of living. You see, this is just the issue. You mean, okay, that's what I was saying. Here's the problem. Is people win elections based on their pocketbook. That pocketbook, because here's the thing. Most of us, me, you, and anybody who's watching this stream, to be very quite honest with you, are probably way more politically informed than 90% of the country. Okay, 90% of the country is not politically informed. They don't know much about what is going on here, there, or the other because they don't feel it. But the one thing they can feel is their pocketbook. They lose a job. They hear about how the jobs losses are piling up, how inflation is skyrocketing. That is what matters. And Donald Trump has lost sight of that. So much so that you can see where nearly half of the people felt that he did not focus enough on the economy. But it gets crazier. So J.D. Vance then slammed Democrats for the lack, courage, and conviction after they refused to support President Trump's statement that the first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens. Again, we already talked about that. I'm not going to rehash this. Here's the crazy fun part. So Donald Trump brought in the USA men's Olympic team. Now, we remember MAGA, Make America Healthy Again, right? But guess what? They ended up providing McDonald's to these USA men's hockey team. And I swear I'm going to say hawker. I don't know why. Mixing up hockey and soccer for some reason. And when they visited him in the Oval Office, they provided him with a participation trophy. You see, I remember when Republicans hated participation trophies. I remember that. I remember that very clearly. I remember that. They were all about, they just need to fight it out. They're just, this is crazy. Well, here's the participation trophy. And then Trump has been given many, many participation trophies, whether it's the FIFA World Cup or the fake Nobel Peace Prize, because people know that they can buy their way with influence. And we're kind of moving into midterm, so I'm going to take a second to read chat and kind of go through this. Hey, guys, as you're coming in here, please make sure you hit that that like, subscribe, notification bell. If you have not already, continue to do so. It's going to be great. McDonald's, wonder if Trump's getting a kickback from McDonald's. Listen, today during his speech in Corpus Christi, which we will try to watch, I don't know if we're going to be able to watch all of it, he ended up talking about Michael Dell and saying that Michael Dell go buy a Dell computer, which is crazy to me, given the fact that Michael Dell contributed to his Trump savings or Trump child savings accounts. Huge conflict of interest, but nonetheless. Women's hockey team got a sick-looking medal. Oh, sick-looking meal to Stanley Tunji. Yeah, I seen that, Wes. Sucks to be a MAGA loser, I guess. Yeah, exactly, right? And it's funny, too, because the men's hockey team, apparently, there was not everybody there. There was a few people that did not attend. Now, they said because they had hockey and things like that. I like to believe that there was actually a few, and from my understanding, there was a couple that were even from Minnesota specifically. So pretty interesting stuff. But Mike Johnson said, if we lost the midterms, heaven forbid, if we lost the majority in the House, it would be the end of the Trump presidency in real effect. You see, this administration, the Republicans know that if Donald Trump's name is on the ballot, they know that if Democrats win the House and the Senate, which looks more and more realistic as we get further into the election year, Donald Trump could be impeached. I think there's a high likelihood that he could be impeached, which is crazy. Now, the unfortunate part of that is if you do impeach Donald Trump, you do get J.D. Vance, which is, in my opinion, far worse than Donald Trump. It's an unfortunate conundrum, but I think it's a necessary thing to do. The other thing we saw here was J.D. Vance was shown a bunch of polls showing Trump is as much as 19 points under the economy. Vance's response is to deflect by claiming the Biden administration. So you see, this is the problem that I think the American people are upset about, right? Is that every single time they ask them to hold themselves accountable, saying, yeah, look, we tried implementing tariffs, that didn't work. Instead, they go to but Biden. And this doesn't just happen with this administration. This happens with MAGA in itself. I can't tell you how many times I have engaged with MAGA personalities only for them to sit there and say, but Biden, but Biden. It is amazing to me. The thing is that Biden did not implement tariffs. He gave them a Goldilocks economy. But Trump went ahead and was dumb enough to sit there and put in place blanket tariffs. That is why in my thumbnail I posted that the Trump's economic report card is terrible. It's an F. And we can see Bo Burgum. They're trying to do this thing where they're telling people, don't believe your eyes. Don't believe your eyes, guys. Nobody's electric bill has gone up because of a data center. What? A data center has been the reason. Data centers are causing a lot of a more demand for electricity. Thus, they have to charge more. It's simple economics. Bennett said if the Democrats win the midterms, a bunch of Trump's administration will go to jail. He did say that way. And he's not wrong. This administration is operating completely outside the confines of our laws. It is insane. Hunter Biden, while they still talk about him in 2026. Exactly. I mean, and that's the funny thing is when they talk about Hunter Biden, but they won't talk about the Trump kids who are absolutely making bank with all of the Trump properties that are being built across the world. Quite literally, I remember there was a hot mic moment not too long ago where Trump was speaking to one of a foreign leader, ambassador or something like that. And he was like, hey, how can I get in contact with your kids? I'm interested in a Trump resort. Imagine if that was Hunter Biden. We're not being able to get away with it. Right here, CNN, there's some kind of voter ID. So he's talking about the SAVE Act, and the SAVE Act has a lot of issues, namely voter ID. The other one is requiring voter registration rolls to be sent to the federal government. And I think that what is going on is they are trying to rig the election. They're projecting and gaslighting when they talk about saying that Democrats are doing that, but they tried gerrymandering. They tried putting in the SAVE Act. They tried doing all of that, right? They're trying to make sure, because they're so desperate to keep Trump in office, that they're trying to do everything. They're trying to get rid of mail-in ballots. The ironic thing about that is, and I think you're about to see it here in just a minute, is that Republicans quite use mail-in ballots just as much as Democrats. It's insane, but that's so you can see here, and we'll skip this part. Look at this. This is just Texas, y'all. Okay. Texas is absolutely destroying the primaries. Now, these are primaries. These are not general elections, so we have to keep the momentum going. But as of right now, Texas has had over 1.1 million Democratic votes polled. That is 190% of the 2022 final totals. Republicans, 1 million. Only 100%. Democrats are turning out in droves, y'all. We have to keep this momentum up. There is a very, very, very real possibility that Texas can go blue. And we can see here, Cardi B endorsed Jasmine Crockett. And I hope, and I really, really do hope and pray that we will see a unification in the Texas Democratic Party with whoever gets the nomination. That is my greatest fear right now, is that anytime Democrats get an ounce of any likelihood of power, it gets ripped away because of purity testing. So I'm praying that this all works out in its way. I think so far right now, Jasmine Crockett looks to be doing pretty well. Also wanted to go back here and show you guys what I was talking about. You can see here where there's been 38,000 votes that have been voted by mail by Republicans, 46,000 by Democrats. Republicans do mail-in voting as well, but they don't want you to know about that. Also, there's this. Remember, I told you about how the Republicans are trying to rig this. Pro-Trump activists say they are in coordination with the White House, are circulating a 17-page draft executive order that claims China interfered in the 2020 election as a basis to declare a national emergency that would unlock extraordinary presidential power over voting. Again, Trump is trying to do everything he can to seize voting from state and local officials. He wants to federalize elections via an executive order. Can you see the desperation that is on this man right now? Can you see how much he wants to hold on to power, that he's willing to put in place an executive order? Now, that's not it. Just it. We've also heard rumors and suggestions. Now, DHS has come out and said that's not true. Well, wait and see. They're talking about putting ICE officers at polling locations. I mean, guys, 5-alarm constitutional fire. It was funny because, I mean, it's not funny, but when we first saw the new administration come into place, we said that there's a constitutional crisis. And it just gets more and more. We're way past a constitutional crisis. We're in a 5-alarm fire. And when a reporter today asked him, "Are you considering a national emergency around the midterm election?" he said, "Who told you that?" Not denying it. Not denying it at all. And I think that's absolutely terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. And, we were talking about the economy and how the economy is working. Stephen Ratner showed that manufacturing and construction spending is down. Okay. Manufacturing is down. Jobs are down. The only places that are making jobs is healthcare and government. Those are the only two jobs that have seen any kinds of increases. All of those blue collar jobs that Donald Trump has talked about, they're gone. They're disappearing. Ima said, why? Because liberals are irrelevant. So irrelevant. So irrelevant. I know snowflakes love to address these. They love their feelings over facts. Well, here's a fact for you. So irrelevant that over 1.1 million people, almost 1.2 million, have voted in the Texas Democratic primary versus Republicans, mere 1 million. So again, you want to talk about Democrats being irrelevant? I think you are wholly misunderstood or misunderstanding what's going on. Liberals are very much coming to power. There's a blue wave coming. We've seen over the special elections over the past year where Democrats are flipping red states or red districts. Heavily red districts at that too, by the way. I'm impressed they held a primary. They do. And again, if you have a problem with a private organization holding their how they operate, you can certainly be big daddy government and enforce how political parties ought to operate. But I know Republicans are now the party of big government, so I wouldn't be surprised if you actually supported something like that. We also see big bankruptcies have hit the highest rate since COVID. And core wholesale prices rose 0.8% in January, much more than expected. Understand, wholesale prices, guys, affect everything. You talk about trickle-down economics, this is it right here, right? When wholesale prices, in other words, a grocery store goes and says, hey, I want a big bulk order of oranges, right? They typically get a discount, but those prices are going up, meaning what are they going to do? They're going to pass that cost down to the consumer. You're going to see increases to your costs. We're also seeing here where it jumped 0.8% in January, and Trump again claiming that he defeated inflation. Source Blue Sky? What are you talking about? That's not Blue Sky, sir. This is CNBC. Core wholesale prices rose 0.8%. I believe this is given from the PPI report. I believe the Bureau of Labor Statistics actually provides that. But yes, Trump declared that he defeated inflation, yet we're seeing it rise. And we can see here in January, Trump said he was imposing immediate 25% tariff on all countries doing business with Iran. He never followed up. Nothing happened. Kevin Hassett said, well, there are negotiations still going on. For a reference to what he is referring to, we saw where the Supreme Court turned down his tariffs. Turned him down. And he ended up saying and crying and complaining about that, and we'll get into it in just a few seconds. And now he's like, well, I'm going to still put tariffs in place. Defying the Supreme Court, by the way. And you can see here, instead of worrying about the economy and how he can help Americans make more money in their pockets, he's bragging about his beautiful ballroom. And another post from today about his beautiful ballroom. And here's the crazy thing about this is because the Supreme Court ruled that these tariffs were illegal, guess who has to pay them back? The U.S. government. And they're not paying you back, the consumer, who are definitely getting the costs passed down to them. They're paying the businesses, so much so right now they're facing more than 2,000 lawsuits. 2,000 lawsuits. And we know those businesses are not going to pass on any winnings or settlements that they may get from this on to you, the consumer. They're going to continue to raise prices. You know, every day that I sit here and I analyze what is going on in our society, the more and more closer I get to becoming a progressive. I'm a liberal right now, but if you would have asked me a few years ago, no, like businesses are okay. Wes, me and you, if you're still in chat, we got into this all the time about corporations and how I think corporations are generally okay. No, I think I've leaned more now towards this. They're not going to pass that cost on down to you, the consumer. They're not going to pass the savings on to the consumer, but they'll pass down the costs, right? Anytime they have an increase. Skip a few steps. I'm not becoming a commie now there, Wes. Listen. Don't get too excited, okay? Don't give in. I'm not going to give you an inch to take a mile now. But here's the crazy thing, too. Donald Trump today freaked out, saying the recent decision of the United States Supreme Court concerning tariffs could allow for hundreds of billions of dollars to be returned to countries and companies, he says countries, that have been ripping off the United States of America for so many years to come. And now, according to this decision, they could actually continue to do so at an even increased level. I'm sure the Supreme Court did not have this in mind, which they did, by the way. They talked about it. It doesn't make sense that the countries and companies that took advantage of us for decades, receiving billions and billions of dollars that they should not have been allowed to receive, would now be entitled to an undeserved, quote unquote, windfall, the likes of which the world has never seen before as a result of this highly disappointing, to say the least, ruling. Is a rehearing or re-adjudication of this case possible? Hey, Supreme Court, I don't like the way you ruled against me. Can you please re-rule? Please. No, fuck off. And that's how it should be responded to. Excuse my language, my explicitive. I am so tired. This whole thing was preventable. If you just followed basic economic advice, which is don't implement these tariffs because it has always been a possibility that they'd have to pay it back. And not only that, now think about it this way too, guys. It feels like a classical Ponzi scheme, right? Think about how much of a Ponzi scheme this really is, right? They go and steal your hardworking money, right? They steal that money from you, dole it out to different, areas of the government or projects or whatever, right? Dividend checks or whatever the hell they call them. And then when it comes and it gets revealed and saying, hey, we want our money, they go, oh, well, we already spent it. Because that's what they did. They already spent that money. It's gone. So now they got to dole out more money, right? They got to dole out more money. They're going to have to pay legal fees to go through all of these things, by the way, which they've already stripped down the DOJ significantly, which means they're already very thin as it is because of all the ICE cases. They still got all those ICE cases going on, y'all, that they're trying to combat. They are so stretched thin that there was a story I read a few weeks ago, I believe it was, where an attorney, a U.S. attorney, came to the court and said, look, hold me in contempt. And she wasn't joking. She wanted the judge to hold her in contempt so she could just have a day off. This administration is one of the worst administrations we have seen in U.S. history. Bar none. And then we get into the Epstein stuff. Okay, the Epstein stuff gets pretty crazy. So to give you some background, Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton were subpoenaed to give a deposition about Epstein. No Trump, by the way, because nobody cares about Trump on the Republican side. Comer said, I'm trying to be nonpartisan in this investigation. 85% of the people involved with Epstein are Democrats. Can't make this up, y'all. These Republicans are so spineless, so much about team sports, that they talk out of both sides of their mouth. You can see here also James Comer getting ready to lead a multi-hour deposition with Hillary Clinton. He completely blows off the question of the DOJ covering up the interviews of a girl who claimed Trump was essayed somebody. And again, if like background on this, there has been suggestions that the DOJ has covered up, literally covered up accusations about Donald Trump. Corruption. I mean, there's no other way to put it. Prino said, for people who are seeing that there's been a question about whether the DOJ suppressed some of the information about Trump and Epstein, how would you respond? Representative Pat Fallon said, just look at the data under Biden, 0 files were released. We've been very forthcoming. Guys, it baffles me. It baffles me to see just how ruthless these people are in lying. Like, it's so frustrating because you know that these people are probably educated to some degree or another, more than the average person. And it's just like, they know that they know the truth. And that's what's so just like mind-boggling to me. It's like, how can you sit there and lie so effortlessly? Again, but Joe Biden, that's their go-to excuse. And you can see here's Hillary Clinton's opening statement that she gave in her deposition. I do not recall ever encountering Mr. Epstein. I never flew on his plane or visited his island homes or offices. I have nothing to add to that. You have compelled me to testify, fully aware that I have no knowledge that would assist your investigation. In order to distract attention from President Trump's actions and to cover them up despite legitimate calls for answers. And I think that's kind of the problem here, right? They're calling in Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton. They're calling in some other people around them. Go to President Trump. Man was friends with Epstein for decades. Now, they will end up releasing these videos, but here's the crazy part about this. We often talk about how entrenched MAGA is, the MAGA social media ecosystem is into this administration. Look no further than this. The advisors to Hillary Clinton say that the House Oversight Committee's closed-door deposition has been paused after it was revealed that Lauren Boebert shared an unauthorized photo from the hearing with Benny Johnson, who then posted it on social media. And then Lauren Boebert defended Benny Johnson, saying Benny did nothing wrong, proceeding with deposition. No, you're right. Benny, I guess, did nothing wrong. He worked off of the information that you gave him. We also see where Howard Lutnick was spotted on the island, or what looks to be Howard Lutnick, certainly looks like him, was spotted on the island. And after it was revealed, guess what? Trump's DOJ removed this photo from the files. Congressman Robert Garcia said, we're now asking and demanding that President Trump officially come in and testify in front of the House Oversight Committee. He appears in the Epstein files next to Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell almost more than anybody else. Now, realistically, is Donald Trump going to come in and testify? No. But he should. I wish in a world where, there was no partisanship that they would actually go in and he would testify. But even if he did, he's going to plead the fifth and he's not going to talk about it. You're not going to get much from Donald Trump, unfortunately. Reporter said, Comer said that President Clinton said that President Trump has never said anything to him. Garcia said the response would be to view the complete record of what he said, which again, these were recorded depositions, so we will see some kind of video and audio come from this. Let me go ahead and clear out some of these stories here. Make it easier to click on this stuff. Almost there. Almost there. There we go. In the oversight Dems said, let's be clear. Today, President Clinton raised more questions about the relationship between President Trump and Epstein, specifically with regards to the reason their relationship ended. Claims that President Clinton fully exonerated Trump are wrong and a mischaracterization. The great Epstein-Trump cover-up is underway. Yeah, Spartacus, it is fully underway. It's been underway for about the past year. And then you can see here, Kayleigh McEnany saying, I would vote, or might have been Kayleigh McEnany, I would note that Donald Trump was not on the plane, so putting him in the same pool as Bill Clinton, who was on the plane. But here it is right here. For your situation, I just want to let you know that the flight records we received yesterday reflect that Donald Trump traveled on Epstein's private jet many more times than previously has been reported. Rutrow shows that he was on the plane. And then we got some random stories I want to talk about. Just kind of random stories. And then we'll get into the video with Donald Trump today. Governor Tim Walz said today, yes, real quick, as we have a little bit of an intermission, guys, please hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Right now we're up to 8 likes. Okay, let's get up to like 20. Okay, do me a solid. Share this out. All right, let's get some likes in here. And then we'll continue to go through this. I do want to note real quick as a promotional thing, next week, I intend to have somebody that I usually engage with quite a bit on TikTok. He's going to join us next week. I don't know when or what day, so I want to hold that back, but he is somebody that I believe will be coming in next week. We are working on mini panels. Okay. I'm trying to get us into some debate panels and doing more things like that. Trying to increase the quality of the stream. I got my first YouTube payout. Thank y'all so much. I'm going to end up getting a new camera, and that new camera is going to go towards the show so that you guys can get a better quality and all that good stuff. Okay, so Tim Walz said, today I'm proposing a ban on assault rifles, high-capacity magazines, binary triggers, firearms also numbers, and more. This isn't a winning issue. This is not a winning issue. I don't think Tim Walz should be going through with this. The problem I have when it comes to assault weapons, quote unquote, is the way in which they are defined. Time and time again. These things are defined really badly. Okay. Typically it's like a barrel shroud or a rifled barrel or things of that nature. And there's not really a clear definition on it. And even then, typically there's a grandfather clause that comes into this. Don't think this is a route for Tim Walz to go down. Just wanted to give a little bit of critique to that. We also know during the State of the Union that J.D. Vance was given the title of fraud czar to look into all the Minnesota fraud. But Pete Buttigieg says busy days ahead for our new fraud czar. And you can see here, private event with crypto customers fuels accusation of Trump profiting off the presidency. Pardon Binance founder Hob Nobbs of Trump's sons and administration officials at Mar-a-Lago Crypto Fest. Trump administration officially accepts jet from Qatar for use as Air Force One. These billionaire brothers have been pardoned, hunting one donating to Trump's White House ballroom. Detroit bridge owner donates $1 million to MAGA PAC before Trump's Gordie Howe Bridge post-record show. And Trump pardons Honduran ex-president who was convicted of drug crimes. We also see where the Johnny MAGA X account looks to have been a potential White House staffer. And the Trump admin is set to withhold over $259 million in Medicaid payments. And Vance said, we don't want to do this. We don't want to be in a situation where the state of Minnesota is being so careless with federal tax dollars that we have to turn the screws. It is amazing to me how somebody like Nick Shirley can absolutely upend something that is meant to be pretty well, right? I mean, it was a good program that ended up getting like just upended completely. It's amazing to see how much that terrible documentary, and I dare even say documentary, has done to our national conversation. And then on to Iran. Vance says, we've seen evidence Iran is trying to rebuild nuclear weapons. Even though I thought they said that they were completely obliterated. Apparently they're not. And then Caitlin Collins was getting into it with Mark-Wayne Mullen about this. Nick Schiller was so disingenuous and stupid about it too. The people who bought into it are as gullible. I mean, I agree. And he did a new one, Wes, and I think we talked about it at the State of the Union, where he ended up saying, like, oh, look at all these people that are registered to vote at the UPS store. And then there's like a bunch of apartments right above it. AFEW, a few bad apples spoil the bunch. Exactly. Mark-Wayne Mullen saying, Caitlin Collins said, we were told last summer it was obliterated, and now we're saying a strike might be necessary. Mark-Wayne Mullen said they were rebuilding it. Caitlin Collins said, how can you rebuild it if it was obliterated? And Mullen said, how do you rebuild your legs after you shatter them? You don't. If your legs are shattered to a million pieces, they get amputated. Mark-Wayne Mullen is probably one of the most idiotic Congress members we have. House Democrats to force a war powers vote on Iran next week, requiring Trump to terminate military force against Iran unless explicitly authorized. Why do we even need this? Right? Why do we need a vote of war powers resolution to prevent Trump from taking military action without congressional approval? Why do we even need this? He shouldn't be taking military action without congressional approval to begin with. He went to daycares and was like, can I see the kids? And then was like, see, there's no kids here just because they wouldn't let some random dude see the kids. Oh, exactly. And Wes, if you go and look at some of because there was some fines that were levied against some of the daycares, you can see where in the fines themselves, they talk about the kids being in inadequate facilities. There's kids there. There were kids there, but they don't want to acknowledge that. Trump on military force in Iran. It'd be nice if we could do it without, but sometimes you have to do it with. We have the greatest military in the world. There's nothing close. I love not to do it, but sometimes you have to. Trump all but reassuring. We're also seeing a bunch of embassies evacuating Iran. We're seeing a bunch of countries urging their citizens not to go to Iran. And there's speculation that what Trump is doing right now is trying to get Israel to do the first strike. And then they'll follow up with it once Iran fights back because they believe it'll look better optically. But a reporter, so also there's been some scuffling going on between Afghanistan and Pakistan. Okay. And so a reporter asked how they asked you to intervene. Mind you, this was the same thing that Donald Trump, the peace president, ended, right? He has a habit of ending wars that never ended. And he said, I would, but I get along with Pakistan very well, very well. We have a great prime minister. I think Pakistan is doing terrifically well. Yeah. So he's not going to stop that whole thing going on there. This one's also pretty baffling too. IRS broke law approximately 42,695 times in giving DHS data. Here's the irony in this. Trump is suing his DOJ for releasing his tax returns. Yet here we see where the IRS is giving DHS taxpayers information
For what purpose? We all know the purpose. Is so that they can go and hunt down undocumented migrants, those who pay their taxes that they don't get any benefit from. So much so that they broke it 42,000 times. And I'd be very curious how much of this was actually used in these raids. Quite a bit. And also in some other ineptitude news, the Department of Defense accidentally shot down a Customs and Border Protection drone near El Paso, causing massive chaos, and the FAA to restrict flights in the area. This might sound familiar. That's because it happened previously, just about a few weeks ago. And here it is again, happening once more. Last but not least, we've got the Trump video. So, guys, to wrap up the news and get into this story, this administration is acting with complete and utter disregard to our Constitution, our privacy. They don't care about you. Trump doesn't care about the average American's wealth. You'll see he brags about it here in the speech, but he doesn't care about that. He cares about how he can make himself wealthy. That is what he cares about. Go ahead and press play. Oh, I got to turn up the volume.
See, that's one of the things we do. You know, if we did so much, that's like one of the, I don't want to call it a throw-in because it's very important, but it's like a little throw-in. I said,
I'm gonna go some water.
We ought to just sort of change the name. We have 92% of the frontage. But they were there first. They've been here 100 years longer. Gulf of Mexico, 100 years longer. Now it's the Gulf of America because we have 92%. I wouldn't say Mexico was thrilled, but they were fine. And I'm delighted to be here at this national treasure, one of the largest energy export hubs anywhere in the world, The port of Corpus Christi, we had a lot to do with it. That bridge, we had so much. What a nice bridge. Ooh, I like that color. What a nice bridge. And we dredged nice and deeply. I guess they said 54 feet or something. It's about as deep as you can go. I think we could go a few feet deeper, and then you could, you want to go a little bit deeper? What the hell? What the hell? It's only money. With the men and women here today, we're unleashing America's potential, strengthening our security, increasing our...
And if you're wondering what this is in the background, this is a seized Venezuelan tanker. Just as an FYI, this is a Venezuelan tanker that they ended up seizing. Again, it's ironic to me because Trump tried saying that there were Somali pirates in Minnesota, yet here they are seizing another country's oil tanker, exactly like what pirates do.
Prosperity. We had the most successful country anywhere in the world. A year and a half ago, we had a dead country. Our country was dead. You know it better than anybody. And cementing America's status as the #1 energy superpower by far anywhere on earth. And I want to thank Venezuela because our relationship is a very good one. We're a very, very good one.
And it's amazing to me, too. Like the entire lead up to that whole Venezuelan operation was, it's about the drugs. It's about the drugs. It's about that. And now you don't hear anything about it. Almost like the real reason got revealed, and now they're not going back on it.
We're having a very good relationship. That ship is from Venezuela. For 4 long years before I took office, the Biden administration, Sleepy Joe Biden, one of the worst presidents in history, not one of the, I have to think the worst. How could you get, can you get worse?
Oh, exactly, Wes. Stolen
Somebody
oil.
said, please don't be political today. Okay, but he's the worst president we've ever had. And its allies in Congress waged a radical left war on American oil and natural gas like you've never seen before. They were killing our country.
We saw some pretty great strides for oil and gas actually under Joe Biden, believe it or not.
And killing your area right here. In fact, they say if I wanted, I could work. If I ran for the mayor of Corpus Christi, would I win? I think so. What the hell? I looked at your job stats. You have done very well with Trump. They killed the Keystone XL pipeline. This is the Biden group. Here's the good news. In all fairness, he had no idea what the hell was happening. But it was his administration of horrible people, horrible, radical left people. No,
To be clear, too, the Keystone Pipeline, if I'm not mistaken, really wasn't going to do much for American jobs. It was just going to transport Canadian oil down to the coast and then allow for another route. It wasn't going to do much for the U.S.
used the auto pen very well. There's never been anybody
Trump
in history
uses
that used
auto
an auto pen like that. Almost conclusively. He piled crippling regulations on producers and refiners, imposed natural gas export ban, and slashed new leases for drilling by 95%. That's Biden. Under their Green New scam, one of the greatest scams in history, gasoline reached a peak of over $6 a gallon in some states, fueling the worst inflation in the history of our country. And the worst inflation in the history of our country. You've heard me say this before, the fake news sitting back there. They say Trump exaggerated. It wasn't in history. They say it was 48 years. Okay, we'll take that too. In a way, 48 years sounds even worse if you want to know the truth. But they tell me it's 48 years. It's not. I think it's the history of our country. But whether it's 48 years or the history of our country, they're both pretty bad. Do we agree? But all of that changed. My first day back in office, it all changed. Our country started coming back like never before.
And I want to tell you guys,
on day one,
I know that this kind of stuff might be a little bit boring. And listen, man, y'all, we were riding high off the hog previously. I mean, we had like hundreds of people coming in here, and I'm still trying to figure out the algorithm. The algorithm is kind of weird. I think I just need to do a lot more in terms of shorts and things of that nature. Also, we had a ton of MAGA trolls come in here. So we kind of purged some of them, and I think that's why they don't come in here as much anymore. But open to different ideas. Again, I'm going to try to do more panels and things of that nature, more React content. I think that's kind of the big issue that we're facing right now is we've got lots of avenues. I do Project Liberal stuff. I go in and I collaborate with a few other people, but we need to expand, and we're going to do that. I think the setup we have is wonderful. We've got a beautiful mic, beautiful camera, beautiful background. Look at that. I even got the logo up in the background. I want to provide more. So if you guys have any suggestions about what you want to see, let me know. Save the American Act. Tammy, talking about the SAVE Act? I don't know what you're talking about, the Save the American Act.
I declared a national energy emergency. I ended the Biden export ban, and I told our great Texas energy workers to very simply drill, baby, drill.
Yeah, which again, it's funny to me, drill, baby, drill, yet you're seizing oil tankers. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Since my inauguration, U.S. oil production is now up by 600,000 barrels a day. Natural gas production is at an all-time record high by far. And today, right here in Corpus Christi, the price of gasoline is down to just less than, actually now, $2.30. I just left Iowa 2 weeks ago. $1.99, and then I passed another one. $1.85. It's happening. It's happening.
Hispanics for Trump? That is hilarious. That's hilarious, Danny. Why would Hispanics support Trump currently right now? Name one good reason why. Because I don't see it.
So we're witnessing a historic American energy boom like we've never seen.
Also, dollar gas is hysterical. There's not, and again, to be very clear, when gas reaches that kind of price, this is the funny thing about Republicans, right? They don't realize this, or they do, and they're just trying to think that you all are not knowledgeable. When gas prices go below a certain value, right? Guess what ends up happening? Oil market layoffs. When oil prices get down, not gas, oil, when oil prices get down below, I think it's like $55, it's not profitable to operate that rig. So Republicans love to tout this. They're like, oh yeah, gas is low and everything else. And then guess what? it creates layoffs in that oil market, that drill baby drill job market.
And this port is right at the center of the action. So who lives here or this area? Who lives? A lot of happy people here. It's nice to be loved. You know, it's nice to be loved. Thank you. Thank you. In my first term, I approved vital federal funding to deepen the channel and fully modernize the port of Corpus Christi. Since that crucial investment, companies have flocked here, creating tens of thousands of jobs and generating billions and billions of dollars in revenue for your community.
People who work need the gas to be affordable, which it wasn't last administration. The last administration was affordable. This is the problem, is that a lot of people overplay gasoline. Now, diesel is one thing, totally understand that, but it's still funny to me when they talk about gasoline. Guys, the difference between $1 of gasoline and like $2 of gasoline, or even $3, is very minimal, especially when we've seen wages going up. Generally speaking, wages are going up. It's not trying to sound elitist, but I think that you're talking like, what, if you have like a 20-gallon, or not even a 20-gallon tank, but let's just assume you do, 20-gallon tank at like, let's say $1.80, even at Trump's own estimate of $1.85, which is untrue. You're talking $37 for gas versus what, 20 times, let's say Joe Biden's high of 3 or even 4. Let's do 4 even. What do you get from that? 80? You're talking maybe, what is that? $43 more? Again, and way wages have gone up. It's not totally that high. I'm in California, it was $7.40, now $4, still too high. Again, I think people over talk. Like, the funny thing about that is people who complain about gas probably have a freaking car note as well, and they're probably paying way too much on their car note with interest. I think people put way too much weight into gas prices. It's ridiculous. I think this shit started back in like the 90s or whatever. I think people just need to get over it. Same thing. I have a controversial take on it, but I think home ownership is a little overplayed as well. People try to say it's a great investment. I am not a financial advisor, but I can tell you right now, there are probably a bajillion other investment vehicles that you can use that are far more profitable than your property. Not to mention the expenses of having to deal with home ownership as well. But
Joe Biden came in and tried to cut off the
regular car. 2 diesel, 2 regular cars. Well, okay. 2 diesel and 2 regular cars. You got 4 cars. I think you'll be fine.
Funding immediately tried to cut it off. What we did, we had a tremendously successful first term, and he came in and tried to
also getting a diesel car is also pretty dumb.
Take away what we had, but
well, you have a business. There it is. Yeah. That's totally fair. And again, the funny thing is, I guarantee you that any increased costs you may incur because of gasoline or because of, I don't know, tariffs, or via you go to your supplier and that supplier has lifted up their price as well. Guarantee you pass that down to the consumer. Your markup goes kind of up.
Today,
and if not, you're doing business the wrong way.
Dock workers, we stopped them. And today, the dock workers, energy workers, and great people of Texas once again really have a president that loves our country, a president that fights for our country.
Loves our country so much that he's violating the Constitution every which way you got. A charge of fuel tax, which is tax too. Exactly. There you go. But there you go, Danny. At least you can recognize it, right?
And a president who's got your back. Nationwide exports of liquefied natural gas are up 37%. Think of that. And
liquefied natural gas is not the same as petroleum, to be very clear.
In the past year, the highest level in American history, and going up a lot. Crude oil exports are up by hundreds of thousands of barrels a day. Venezuela, think of it, 80 million so far. We just started. 80 million barrels of fuel. Think 80 million barrels of oil. Think of what that means.
He can't even get it out. He can't even say what he's trying to say. God. And I do believe, I don't think he understands the process of how oil becomes gas, because he slipped up there. He said 80 million barrels of gas. 80 million. He said it. That's the common misunderstanding. For anybody who's unaware of how gasoline gets made, okay, crude oil gets drilled and pumped out of the ground, okay, pretty basic stuff there, okay, there's obviously a lot of nuance to it. Gets drilled out of the ground. Depending on what kind of company it is, they're going to end up selling that oil to a refinery company. That refinery company, by the way, that price is set by the market, not by the company. Okay. And then once it hits the refinery processes their crude oil into a variety of different products, shampoos, windshield wiper fluid, whatever it may be, all different kinds of material. One of those products, though, the predominant one, is going to be gasoline. But here's the catch. They don't sell it directly to gas stations. That little Shell symbol you see on a gas station, yeah, that little Shell logo just means they sell Shell branded gasoline. Where do they get the gasoline? Great question. Once the refineries refine the gasoline, it then gets sold to a wholesaler, where then the wholesaler will sell the gasoline to the gas stations. And fun fact, most gas stations end up losing money on their gas. Why? Because they hope you're going to come into their store and buy their products. Now, what I just described to you is the supply chain of oil. And the supply chain of oil in there, you've got upstream, midstream, and downstream. Upstream is where it actually gets drilled out. Midstream is where it actually gets refined or transported. And midstream is where it gets transported. And downstream is where it actually gets refined. Don Trump said over 1,000 products. Exactly. There are a ton of products that come from petroleum. A ton.
Think of a stadium with 80,000 people. Now say 80 million. That's what we've taken, and it's great for Venezuela, and it's great for us. It's great for us, great for Venezuela. And a lot of it, like that, a lot of it comes right here. And with our new friend and partner, Venezuela, we're going to do a lot of other things. We're going to be doing a lot. We're having a great relationship with their government. Has anybody ever witnessed anything so beautiful, so decisive, and so popular with the people of Venezuela? It was very popular. In fact, 360,000 barrels of Venezuelan crude are right now sitting in the tanker on my left.
Well, yeah, it's an oil product and material too. Yeah, I mean, there's a whole bunch of raw material that gets made from oil, right? I mean, car oil, all that. I mean, I don't know. I don't have an extensive list, but you can go to any kind of refinery and look up the refining company and what they actually make from their product. It's quite a bit. And it was one of the reasons why whenever the war with Ukraine popped off, the long story short of it was that our refineries shifted their mixture for U.S.-friendly gasoline to EU-friendly gasoline, and they started exporting that. And that's one of the reasons why one of many reasons why gas prices ended up going up during the Joe Biden administration, was because the refineries shifted the way they ended up making their gasoline.
It's a nice one. So where the hell does that one come from? For the benefit of both our nations, we're going to refine their oil right here in America and right here in Texas, and then export it to all over the world.
Xerdi said, I just came in. Do you support Trump? If yes, a lot of Republicans stopped doing so since he wants to take Greenland. I do not support Donald Trump. And yes, a lot of Republicans have, well, no, I don't know if a lot of Republicans have stopped supporting Trump because of Greenland. I've actually heard arguments just the opposite. I engage in TikTok debates quite frequently, and one of the things that I hear all the time about Greenland is that it is a strategic point that we need. And they argue that until they're blue in the face. And I tell them, I'm like, we already have an agreement from them from back in like the 50s or whatever it is that we could build as many military bases as we want. And Trump is eager to take over some kind of a country. And really, ultimately, what Donald Trump wants in Greenland is just the rare earth minerals. That's what he wants. It was well known even earlier on in his administration. Convenience stores make approximately 3 cents to 7 cents per gallon of gas. State and federal taxes kill the price. But at the same time, again, it's a loss leader. Even some grocery stores do this as well, right? I can't remember what the loss leaders are for some of these grocery stores. I think the one for Costco is hot dogs. They lose money on their hot dogs because they hope that as you come in, you'll spend more as you come through. They're called loss leaders. So, I mean, even if there were regulations that made it a little bit more expensive, the argument of, well, they would end up, it would help end up decreasing the price even more. Again, it'd still be a loss leader, right? I think people are desperate to make claims like that. Nope, he wants Greenland to avoid Russia or China from taking it. He said faking it. Well, first of all, that is what he claims. But he also claimed that he was going to take Venezuela. He needed to get Maduro out to stop the drugs. But now here it is, literally in this video right here, where he's bragging about the oil from Venezuela. You see, this is what happens. And I'll tell you why he does this. Okay. Donald Trump runs on national emergencies. We look at the National Guard. We look at what happened with tariffs. By the way, tariffs, the reason they got overturned was because he declared a national emergency, okay, to consolidate that power away from Congress. And it's the same thing here. He did it under the auspices of saying, well, we need to go into Venezuela to stop the drugs that are coming into our country, and that's a national emergency. So the same thing with Greenland. He's going to sit there and say it's because we need it before China and Russia take it. But reality, that's not a big deal. Russia's busy fighting their own wars. China is too busy with Taiwan. He's saying that because, one, the MAGA will eat it up. Sorry, the maggots will eat it up. But secondly, because he thinks he can use that as a legal reasoning to invade Greenland. And then what he'll end up doing is he'll invade Greenland only to then strip them of their rare earth minerals. There is always an underlying reason by which he does these things. It's never as what is labeled at first. He only uses that as an entryway to actually get what he wants to avoid having to hold themselves accountable to Congress. This administration hates going to Congress. They don't love Congress. They hate it. They want to work around them. Makes sense. It's our hemisphere, and the natives of Greenland should have a say. So, well, here's the problem with that: is that can they have a say so if they are staring down the barrel of a U.S. Navy destroyer? Can they have a say so? That's not a free, fair, and election, is it? I'm a conservative, but not religious. If that makes sense, I agree with a lot that Charlie Kirk said. Not all of it, but mostly. I'm very satisfied. Okay, I don't know where we're talking about Charlie Kirk in this at all. You know, Greenland is part of NATO. Russia and China can't just take Greenland. Exactly. There's that too. And then again, they've got many other problems going on there in their situation. Maduro's the largest drug lord in Venezuela. Yeah, and Donald Trump is about to end up getting Maduro released. Because the idea is that you cannot abduct a official head of state. And Maduro's defense team is saying that Donald Trump has recognized numerous times that Maduro is the official head of state. And if they can prove that Donald Trump recognized Maduro as the official head of state, guess what? He gets released. Greenland was once a U.S. territory. I don't know too much about Greenland history. I wouldn't surprise me. If you think Russia won't try to take Greenland, he will with China. You think Russia will with China? I don't know what you're talking about. I know this isn't the most important thing, but the CEO once tried to increase the price of the hot dogs at Costco because of the loss leader, and the founder said, if you raise the effing price of the hot dog. Yeah, Wes. I mean, I think that's the thing is like, I think honestly, both sides, the left and the right, would do really great at actually understanding how businesses operate, and not just like small mom and pop businesses. I think a lot of people on the left, who's Charlie Kirk? I think a lot of people on the left and the right have kind of what I call the hustle business, right? The hustle business is one where you open a business and what comes in is your income, not the business's income. In other words, when you go and do a moving company, right, or do a moving job, and then that customer pays you, say, $200-$300, you take that $200-$300, you put it in your back pocket, and you go get groceries with it. That's not a way to run a sustainable business. And so what I'm talking about is more corporate businesses, ones that there are shareholders, ones where they are publicly traded, ones where there are things like that. We are Charlie Sheen. Is Trump a fascist to you? Isn't there a huge difference between actual Mussolini fascism and Trump? Listen, I'm not one to talk about political ideologies. I think that there are certainly some fascistic tendencies with Donald Trump. You're asking the wrong content creator as to whether or not I believe Donald Trump is or is not a fascist. I don't really do the whole political ideologies things. One, I think it's kind of boring. Honestly, talking about like authoritarianism, communism, liberalism, things like that. I am more of a current events kind of content creator. I have no problem talking about some of those things, but it's a very surface level understanding, and I'd be lying to you if I try to give you anything greater than that. So you realize how close we are to Greenland. If Russia or China ever take over Greenland, we're screwed. Again, I don't think they care about Greenland right now. I don't think Russia or China are going to take over Greenland. Russia's still trying to take over freaking Ukraine. And if China were to take over any country right now, they'd take over Taiwan. Yes, he is a fascist. He's not Mussolini or Hitler, but he's a fascist. But yeah. I mean, like I said, Wes, I probably agree with you. I mean, most of the things that I've seen that kind of align with that the only parallels I can really use are the ones from the 1940s. And I think there's a lot of things that I'm seeing with parallels with that certainly line up that way. So I definitely think there's, at the bare minimum, there's tendencies. Okay.
We're going to keep some for ourselves. We're going to give some to them, and they're going to make more money than they've ever made before. We'll help build their country again, which was a disaster.
Things like fascism don't just pop up immediately. It takes time to undo constitutional norms. Exactly, Wes. And that's what I'm saying. I think we are at that stage where we are seeing authoritarianism take full place.
And we're going to build it up, and we're going to benefit also, and that's the way it's supposed to be, right? It's going to be great. One person who has witnessed our energy turnaround.
Of course, Putin is doing it. It's his memoirs claims to put back the file. Well, again, I don't see anywhere where Putin is interested in taking over Greenland. I think it's just a facade.
Firsthand is Jesse Robinson. Jesse? Come on up here, Jesse. He began his career at this port working on the front lines of railroad operations and has risen to become one of the port's key leaders. I can see that, by the way. You all know him, helping to drive the American energy surge. This is a surge like nobody's ever seen. Jesse?
Ghost Dog said, this clown is a broken record and nothing is getting better. Absolutely, Ghost Dog. Welcome in, by the way. Hey, as you guys are coming in here, hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. Please, 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 please. Let's try to get to like 20 likes, okay? There's 14 of you guys in here. If every one of you guys hit that, we would be up there already. Of course, Putin is doing it. It's right. You keep repeating the same thing, Danny. Like, if we like Vance or Stephen Miller or something at 28, we will be in full-blown fascism. Is it not clear that we are rounding up the others and throwing them in camps? Yeah, no, I agree with you, Wes. And that part is really disturbing, is I don't see enough light being shown on what these camps are doing. I think a lot of it is also profiteering. I actually looked up the Geo Group's revenue. Geo Group is who houses these undocumented migrants. Their revenue has absolutely skyrocketed under this administration. And could be wrong, but I feel like I remember seeing the Geo Group endorse Donald Trump. So, yeah, and I'm hearing stories about women and children or whatever that are being sent to a particular camp in Texas. And in that camp, they can't see a OB doctor if they're pregnant. It's like, I've seen some horrendous shit. It'll only come to light whenever we have Democrats in power to be able to investigate this stuff properly.
Come on up and say a few words.
Wow. Good afternoon, everyone. You know, I've been on this cargo dock probably 1,000 times, but I never could have imagined standing at this podium at this very moment with all of you as we honor together what an irrefutably historical moment this is. In my role as director of asset management here at the port, I see firsthand every day the valuable contributions by President.
All right, I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight, by the way, into this gentleman here. I can tell by a few key things here. If you think this man sits there on the ports 24/7, you're sadly mistaken. I am going to be willing to bet that this man has not seen the dock in quite a few years. He is the director of assets, which tells me he's probably been in this position for several years. The other thing to keep note of is that this little green vest hasn't seen a lick of dirt. Also, this hat is company marketing material that they end up giving out, and it is clean as a whistle. But nonetheless, it's not to detract from it. Hey, man worked his way up, sounds like it. But just wanted to say that because it is kind of funny when, you see people who like claim they're like hard, I'm down here bust smash. Bro, you're in an office right now getting AC 24/7. Stephen reminds me of a certain German who had a club foot. Yeah, Spartacus, exactly. We always get the same claim every election cycle. It's fascism, Republican is racist, fascist. Yeah, we get the same thing about the Democrats, right? Where they claim the Democrats are communist. Yep, very accurate, Spartacus. He scares me way more than Trump, honestly. Yeah, and I've heard that too with like Peter Thiel and things like that with J.D. Vance. And I think J.D. Vance is a far more competent leader. And when I say competent, I mean he has all of his senses with him.
Trump. I see the millions of dollars in federal funds invested in infrastructure that helps us serve our customers so they can in turn and serve the communities around the world. At this port, I have the honor of leading roughly 75 employees and contractors, most of which are here today. And I can tell you with utmost sincerity that every one of us takes great pride in our jobs, supporting this global gateway. We work hard and with humility. This waterway means something to us. It represents the economic opportunity for
like everyone surrounding Trump is way scarier than he is because Trump isn't competent. Yeah, I mean, exactly, Wes. And this is something I still to this day kind of like sit there and think about. I'm like, don't get me wrong, Trump is a bad guy. Okay. He certainly had his fair share, but this time around, he has put people in place that are really the ones pulling the strings. Don't let him fool you that he is somehow uniquely in charge. He's only in charge by way of putting a stamp of approval. There's been suggestions earlier on last year that there are people that will rush into the Oval Office to be the first one in Trump's ear because they know that Trump will sign off. We see people like Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, right? Brendan Carr, Marco Rubio, Pete Hegseth, all uniquely vile individuals, right? But Donald Trump's really not in charge. He may act like he is, but he's really not, right? There's a lot of people around him that are pulling the strings and this is why I think Project 2025 is a real thing. And it very much is a real thing. Is that he went into this administration with Project 2025 being the guide. Prove me wrong, said Wes, you're an idiot. That was such an insightful, wonderful analysis. Prove me wrong. So insightful. Really made me think. That is fascinating. Danny said, I'm not okay with men and women's sports, putting women behind men again or force. Again, if you think men and women's sports is like the winning electoral issue, you are sadly mistaken, but go on about it.
Tens of thousands of families throughout this region. I want to thank my family for supporting my commitment to this port. I want to thank my team for their heart and grit. And I want to thank President Trump for recognizing their tenacity and value. Thank you.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, Jesse. Great guy and great family and hard worker. All hard workers. I'm a hard worker. We're all hard workers. Slashing energy costs. Hey, by the way, how did you like the State of the Union the other night? That was good.
I'd love to see the crowd because I'm not going to lie, the crowd sounds pretty small.
Exactly.
Cringe. And this is something I've talked about. You think past presidents are perfect? I never said that. I don't know what you're talking about. Prove me wrong. I think Joe Biden was not the perfect president either. I hear you, but it's plenty of different policies. Oh, shoot. Did I rerun this damn thing? Where is it? Here we go. Right about here. I mean, it's already 8:54. So here's the thing about Texas. I'll tell you this. Is that a lot of people in Texas right now, there is a certain stigma. This is why I say MAGA is a cult. Liberals or the left is viewed as somebody who wears blue hair, is not as masculine, I'll tell you, from all the conversations I have had with people on TikTok, the most masculine men I have met have been on the left. It's funny because the right will sit there and say that they're about the nuclear family, but they're usually the ones that are too drunk to be able to actually go to their kids' softball or baseball games. The liberals tend to be the ones that have a strong family dynamic. Tends to be that the liberals are the ones who actually show up to their kids' games because they're not plastered. And if you want evidence of that, go look at whenever we talked about IDs and how every Republican says, you need an ID to get beer. Someone said, I got off the plane. It's also the same Republicans that end up typically being the ones that do SAing and that kind of stuff. Yeah, that happens. But no, there is a certain personality that you have to break from. When I came out as liberal, because by the way, spoiler alert to all of you maggots out there, I was not liberal, believe it or not, for a vast majority of my life. I only recently became liberal. Wes can attest to that. And when I broke free from MAGA, I ended up having to explain to my parents why. They said, why are you doing this? Why are you a liberal? Why are you doing? And then I went to go see Isaiah Martin in Houston at a No Kings rally protest. And I got berated. They were like, why are you supporting these undocumented migrants? Or actually, they said illegal aliens. And this is kind of the thing that I think that Tallarico can do well. I think that's something that really needs to be looked at when we talk about the political landscape of Texas. The political landscape of Texas is very much still racist. It has made, it's starting to change tides. But the political landscape of Texas is very much still in the 60s. And this is why I say, I think Crockett is a uniquely great candidate. I think she has the personality that we really, really need for Texas. I think the policy and prescriptions between Tallarico and Crockett are very similar in a lot of ways. But I think Crockett has a better edge. Problem is that I don't think Crockett would be able to run in Texas. I hope to be proven wrong. I think the strategy then, if Crockett gets the ticket, is you really need to drum up the Democratic base. Really need to drum it up. Because the Republicans want Crockett to run. And I don't know if I got to it, but I kind of got to it a little bit. The Republicans want Crockett to run because they have enough baggage, they feel. But look at the criticisms they levied against her, right? They talk about her accent. They talk about DEI, things of that nature. It's kind of sad. With dated relationships with their own family because they can't handle criticism. I don't know what you're talking about. Wow, I stopped being progressive and I became a Republican. Yeah, I've heard the same thing from a lot of other people who conveniently it's progressive. I don't know how you can do that. I don't understand the way of becoming. You want to say liberal. I can understand maybe liberal, but I don't understand how you can go from being progressive to Republican. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense, especially under Trump. That really doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So I highly doubt it. Crockett is a joke. Why is Crockett a joke, Derek? Please elaborate. Tell the classroom. What is a joke about her? Elaborate. Exactly. They don't elaborate. Spartacus, come on now. That's asking too much. She was always saying horrible things about white people. She's fake. There you go. See? There you go, guys. She's fake. Told you. It's not hard. The criticisms against her is that they don't have any policy prescriptions. It's the fact that she's a black woman who speaks to power. It's the same thing that they do with Trump, with Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib and Kamala Harris, where he calls them low IQ. It's hysterical. I don't believe when people say if you can go from progressive to Republican under Trump, then you were never actually progressive. I agree, Wes. I'm not one for purity testing, but it's like you're either lying or I'm very curious how you went from progressive, what progressive values you held to be Republican. I can understand if it was under like say Bush or something like that. Even then, I think that's still silly. But now it's funny because I have engaged with a lot of people who are like, "Oh yeah, I voted for Obama in 2012 and not Romney." I'm like, okay. So Derek gets nervous when a woman is smarter than him, right? People who play that shit doesn't mean anything anymore. Oh, careless about color. Again, more times than not, congratulations that you don't care about that, but a lot of people do. So much so, if you want any proof, look at the attacks against DEI. That's proof right there. Well, anyways, guys, it's been great talking with you. It's 9:00 now. You got me. All right, there you go, Derek. No actual criticisms. That's all right. I mean, you have Google too, and you're behind a keyboard, so you could easily go in and Google something about him at least, but you didn't do it. Shows you don't care. It's just one of those things that people say that they think gives them more cred. Like they get to say, I grew up. We leftists do this really bad too. Yeah. I mean, that's the whole thing is like, they'll say like, I voted for Obama as a way to like kind of do the, like, I've got a black friend kind of thing. Right. What's wrong with just being Americans? Because the way that the right defines American is different than the way the left defines American. On that note, guys, I really do think I've had a great conversation with you guys. I just got a message from a buddy of mine went into a panel tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. I'm going to talk to the wife, see if we can work something out for tomorrow. If so, I will go live tomorrow. Keep an eye out. Make sure your like, subscribe, notification bell is on. I will make a post if we do go live tomorrow. If not, I'll be on Wednesday, Friday, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. I will be also posting stuff to YouTube Shorts. I am on TikTok almost every morning around 7 to 8 p.m. or 7 to 8 a.m. and 5 to 6 p.m. So, yes, thank you, Wes. Hit that Discord, please, please, please. We are trying to grow this platform. It's a little bit discouraging, admittedly, when we have lost a shit ton of viewers, but listen, I love a challenge. And right now we've got a lot of you guys in here and some of y'all are very loyal and I really appreciate it. So we'll get through it. 8 viewers is still something to be great about. There's some people who can't even pull in 1 viewer, right? So I appreciate every one of you guys. I really, really, really do from the bottom of my heart. And we're going to continue to do our thing here. On that note, guys, have a great one.